Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I will ask you to put your tomatoes away. My name is Bonnie McBryan, and I submitted one of the complaints this evening that's being discussed this evening. Some of you are wondering how we got here tonight. Nobody wonders that more deeply than do I. We got here because I was advised and counseled by city council members to file a complaint. I was advised to do that so that the ethics issues would be discussed. I was not told that this would ever come to city council. I was not told that this would ever leave the Ethics Commission. I think this is a sham, ladies and gentlemen. I think you are showing incredible disrespect for the two people who submitted ethics complaints. This has become a show of support for a single council person. This isn't about recalling him. We're not campaigning against him. We have pointed out situations that have been incredibly hurtful. You receive death threats? I do. Are you called a liar every day on Twitter? I am. My business is affected. My reputation in this community is affected. Why? Because at last August, Mr. Pelcher called me a liar 8 times in a 4-minute tirade against me. Why? Because I quoted a front page article that said he was a bully. I didn't say that. The front page article said that, and it quoted a former city manager. I came to that meeting because I felt pretty devastated. We were losing a city manager that I had worked with, a city manager that was excellent as far as I'm concerned. I worked in the public sector for 30 years.
You're at your 2 minutes, Bonnie.
I'm sorry. I am requesting additional time.
You're about 2.5 minutes now, so I said I'd go up to 3, so you have a few more seconds.
You gave Mr. Pelcher a lot of time. You also gave this group an incredible amount of time, allowing a dozen of them to speak twice. I request an opportunity to express myself.
Council members, how do you feel about that?
I'm fine with her continuing.
Okay, go ahead.
I came to that meeting in August because Mr. Pelcher had been called a bully. I didn't originate that. I quoted it being said by other people. Now, I reviewed my comments. I'm like that. I went back and I looked at that tape. I looked at everything that's been written by me and by Mr. Pelcher. I sounded pretty righteous. And I think that came because, not out of anger, but more out of sadness that our city official, our highest city official, felt he was being driven out of this community. I was frustrated about the implications of that charge, the possible consequences for city staff, for council colleagues, and for citizens like me who just wanted to stand up and say something. Those allegations weren't mine. I simply quoted them. So I appeared righteous, but you know what? I did not lie. I do not lie. I worked in the public sector for 30 years. I take every ethics issue to heart. That was my lifestyle. Those are my principles. I do not lie. Mr. Pelcher took my statement and twisted it into something that I didn't even recognize. I do not lie. I was going to let all that go because I understood that by making comments about bullying, he would be upset. That makes sense. But 2 days later, I started getting copies of the letters he was sending out to people. Many of you got them, where he called me vindictive, mean-spirited, dishonest, And that's the way he's characterized me. Folks, he sent out 150 letters and asked everybody to send it out to other people.
Bonnie, I think I really need you to wrap up. Do you have much more? Are you almost there?
I'm going to skip to the end, thank you. I'm sure you're all wondering why I pursued this. Multiple reasons. I was concerned about allegations that were being made. I was encouraged to file this. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I certainly didn't expect an evening where 50 people would stand up and talk about how wonderful Mr. Pelcher is. The only avenue open to me to reclaim myself is through the ethics process. The only way for me to say that defamation and character assassination by a council person, any one of you, by any council person, this is the way I say those things don't belong in this community, especially from somebody that we all hold in high regard. And folks, I hold Ron Pelcher in high regard.
Thank you.
If you all looked at my documentation, if you realized he was blaming me for the Wyatt development, literally saying, and I can read that letter too, the one that says,
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry,
we could have stopped this.
Thank you.